Now, as you all are aware, we have, of course, Bob Iger now calling the shots when it comes to the Star Wars franchise. That's also being led by John, George, and Dave on the creative scale. And we have, of course, a lot of other creatives coming on board that are being hired by people like Favreau and Filoni to really steer things in the right path for the Star Wars franchise and how it's going to be pretty much, handled and executed with each and every show. That's the overall plan. They have to have a consistent flow of successful Star Wars installments that's really going to resonate with fans to really convince the overall community that Star Wars is indeed back in action. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future Star Wars updates. I'm also on Twitter at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. Now, one thing that Bob Iger has been getting himself into lately is a bit of a tug-of-war situation with the Disney board members, and right now things aren't looking too good for Bob, based on some of the plans that he's been pursuing and how it does involve Kathleen Kennedy. We're going to be going into every single detail about what's happening and whether or not it really is even going to go somewhere, because this is a very complex issue. It's been happening now on and off for a couple of weeks, and this is the latest. So Bob Iger, as you all know, he is the guy that allowed Kathleen Kennedy to do whatever she wanted to do with the sequel trilogy, with the Star Wars lore, ranging from 2015 until 2019, and it was just a very big mess, to say the least. We saw what happened with Solo, we saw what happened with Kenobi and Boba Fett, and that's where everything pretty much ended, where John and Dave got more privileges over at Lucasfilm, and for the most part, took over, in a sense. So that brings us to what Bob Iger recently did that may very well get him fired and let go prematurely as the CEO of the company. So, given that many new Star Wars TV shows are currently in development by both John and Dave, Bob Iger, the Disney CEO, has been going through some very big changes as of late. Now, it's noted that currently Bob Iger has gotten himself into even more trouble from the Disney board members for pursuing and embracing a certain decision of his that he is chasing to complete, something that he may get fired over and prematurely let go as the CEO if things progress. Now, it's noted that Bob Iger is trying to make a deal with Kathleen Kennedy as part of her severance deal when leaving Lucasfilm by trying to greenlight one of her other Star Wars shows, which will be the third one that has remained in limbo for a very long time now, that has, of course, and was going to be an anthology series. Now, Iger is trying to greenlight this one last Kennedy project in order to actually have Kennedy sign a certain contract where it would completely cancel any plans or any future plans for a second season of Skeleton Crew regardless of its success, which was tentatively planned anyway if it were to be successful. So let me just stop right here for a second. So, from what it sounds like what Bob Iger is trying to do is that he's trying to prevent Skeleton Crew by contract from getting a season 2 if it is going to be successful. And in exchange, he wants to greenlight a third Kathleen Kennedy Star Wars project, even when she's gone and not at Lucasfilm. Her creative plans for that show would remain. And that, I don't know which one's worse. I really don't. Having another Kathleen Kennedy project coming in replacement of a potential Skeleton Crew Season 2, or just leaving things as is with the likely scenario, or unlikely scenario, who knows, on a second season of Skeleton Crew. And again, I don't believe that Skeleton Crew is going to be that successful, so I don't think that we really have all that much to worry about Skeleton Crew getting reinstated with a second season. And listen, I know I can't judge everything, we have not seen footage, but everything that has been happening behind the scenes is not too reassuring. It's not. It's been labeled as the most toxic production under all of Disney Star Wars history, ever since 2013. It's been that toxic of an environment. Some crew members got fired, some crew members quit and got replaced with others. It's been a mess, and they were very overworked. There's a lot of reshoots happening as of right now to this day, and there's a lot of other things happening too. So, anyways, Bob Iger is not in the best seat right now because the Disney board members literally are warning Iger that they are willing to fire him and get rid of him prematurely than originally planned if he does pursue this plan to basically put in another Kathleen Kennedy project that they know the fans are going to completely reject and have a big issue with. Now again, like I say, this mystery Kathleen Kennedy series is labeled as an anthology show, meaning that each and every episode is going to be a totally different story, a totally different era, so to speak, but in live action form. Now, moving on to the next thing. Now, Iger, of course, is trying to make a deal by having Kennedy give the call on canceling a potential second season of Skeleton Crew and wiping out any possibility of that and its plans in exchange for greenlighting her third show that was going to be an anthology series stretching across different eras before she actually leaves Lucasfilm, where her stories would remain even after she is fired and or laid off for the third show. This is something that Disney Board, of course, is fighting and warning Bob Iger about right now, and they are willing to replace him as soon as possible if this goes as planned, to greenlight the third show for Kathleen Kennedy. Now, I said that Iger is also planning to do this and make a decision by May of this year, and board members are furious with his actions right now and are trying to knock some sense into him. Now, the thing about this, too, that I think a lot of fans need to be aware of and pay attention to closely is that the third show that we talked about 7 months ago, this Kathleen Kennedy anthology show, was going to basically be her own version of the Circle of the Wills. That is going to be led by John and Dave. Circle of the Wills, it's basically going to be the Jedi, or not the Jedi, but the Wills, the godlike beings who watch over the Jedi. And the Sith, the dark, the light, everything that happens throughout the history of Star Wars. It's going to be narrated by the Wills and showcasing all the different events per episode. And that's going to be very interesting. So this is going to basically be, if it happens, Kathleen Kennedy's version of Circle of the Wills, led by John and Dave. Do I think that Bob Iger is going to get this thing to happen? I really don't see this happening. I mean, if he is and wants to get fired and let go, so be it. But if I were him, I'd really stand back on this and just call it a day and say, hey, you know what? If a Skeleton Crew Season 2 happens because it's so successful, there you have it. You know, I think that's a safer route than reinstating this third Star Wars project by Kathleen Kennedy that's an anthology show that has the ability to make so many retcons if she wants to, because it stretches across different eras. It's just too much of a risk for the continuity and for the fandom to lose its momentum of excitement for the Star Wars franchise. So anyways, it's a very big mess right now. There's a lot of things happening between the board and Bob Iger. There's a big shakeup. There has been a shakeup. I mean, let's face it, ever since Bob Chapek got, fired, it hasn't been the prettiest sight over there at Disney. So anyways, drop a comment below, guys. Let me know what you guys have to say about all of this below in the comments. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel. I thank you all so very much for the kind support, and I'll catch you guys next time.